Good morning, everybody. Welcome into 104.3 The Fans Coffee Break. We've got D-Mac, Will Peterson, Rachel V. Hill hanging out with you. And good morning to all the Swifties that got themselves tickets yesterday, including our very own Will Peterson. Will, how long did you wait in line for tickets? I'm very curious.
The queue was like 4.5, 5 hours before it finally got let through. And then it was sort of chaos once you were in there because you could see the little blue box where the seats were available. And it was like an alien zapping them up. So you had to go around real quick and get your blue dots and get your tickets. And then there was all kinds of error messages, right? Like people who got to the finish line, they had waited for 5 hours and then Ticketmaster just said, sorry, something messed up. So it was a relief to finally get the email, you got the tickets.
Wow, good for you. So when you say wait online, you just were on your computer, not at work.
I was on my computer working. Yes.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. No, my bad. When you say standing in line, you were working at home on your computer.
Right.
So we weren't camping outside in a real line. We weren't doing that.
No.
We were watching a little dot, tell you how far your progress was. And it 4.5 hours, a dot going this far, it's going to move pretty slow. So,
by the way, have either of you guys ever waited in a line to buy concert tickets in a real line with human beings?
I have not. No, it's always been digital.
It feels very.
And I think the longest. I can't believe you waited that long, Will. I think the longest I've ever done it is like 45 minutes, and that was for like Bronco playoff tickets. Back in a long time ago now.
So, what do you guys think about people, maybe in my generation, who literally would wait outside in a line for tickets?
It's dedication for sure. A little bit more than just staring at a computer screen all day. That's kind of intense.
And you have to fight the weather then. I've only done that for like Black Friday when you have to like sit out,
Well, there you go. Good example. That's actually a good example. I've done it twice for two different concerts. Twice in my life, I've done it. One time at Syracuse, I was walking back from a class, and I just saw like 10 people in line, and I didn't know what they were lining up for. And they were lining up for Bon Jovi on the Slippery When Wet tour. And I just said, that's kind of fun. I don't really need to go to my next class. So I just sat there in line with those people. And I waited for like 7 or 8 hours. And then they finally gave you wristbands that denoted what number you were because the tickets went on sale the next day. But I did wait overnight, again, in college, seems to be a college thing, for Elton John and Billy Joel. And for both concerts, for Bon Jovi, I was in the second row. For Elton John and Billy Joel, I was in the first row. So I have done it twice in my life. But my son at Arizona State, for sporting events, they used to camp. They used to camp out overnight for the best student tickets available. So it still sort of happens. I think it's a cool thing. You see it down in Duke all the time. Right. It's kind of a fun old school sort of concept. Rah.
Here's my problem is I would literally do it for like 12 hours. Like if I knew this was something I wanted to go to, like I would be one of the first people. Even if I was like 3 hours ahead of other people, that would just be me. And I'm so glad it's digital now because I can stay in my own home. But that's also kind of the luck of the draw, right? Like you don't get to really force your own luck in that sort of situation.
I would just say the legend of Scrappy Will being Scrappy Gross, that he waited in line all that time yesterday.
But you can't let your computer turn off. Like, I get that you're at home, but you can't let your computer turn off. Like, you can't do anything. If your Wi-Fi goes out somehow, you're screwed.
Well, I was writing stories for DenverFan.com with two different windows, right? I had my T-Swift window and my DenverFan.com window. And I could tell D-Mac was sort of hinting that I didn't get anything done yesterday. So we could go through everything I did if we really want to go there.
Will has receipts. Will has receipts.
Yes. I wrote why the Broncos need to pay attention to the Colts and make a gutsy hire like Jeff Saturday. I wrote about how, guys, the Broncos, there's a path for them to finish with the second worst record in the NFL and gift the Seahawks the number 2 overall pick. And I wrote about Aaron Patrick suing the NFL and ESPN and the Chargers and everyone and their brother. So I'm sure things we'll talk about on the show today, Rachel, but those receipts are at denverfan.com while I waited for my tickets.
I'm standing back. Did you catch Mark Schlereth auditioning for the head coaching job on the drive in the 5 o'clock hour yesterday?
I did not. No.
Oh, it was very interesting. He was very, very serious about it. We weren't intending to talk to Mark about it, but it sort of went in that direction. And it was fascinating. I know he's going to be on later, Rachel, and he just more or less laid out exactly what he would do. And he did not do it in a joking fashion. Not at all.
Okay, well, we might have to ask him about it for sure. Well, before we get to the Broncos, let's get into some other news that's going around Colorado and Colorado athletes. We'll start with Nikola Jokic, who's being ruled out after entering the health and safety protocols. Bone Highland's also out. He's listed as doubtful for tonight, and questionable is Aaron Gordon with a non-COVID related illness. Then we go to the U.S. men's national team. Ethan Horvath is headed to Qatar as the first Coloradoan. Huge shout out to him. Congratulations. And Ted Lasso has a shout out featuring this giant billboard in Denver with a good luck message. If you see it, send me a picture on Twitter. I would love to know where it's at. Also, we need to chat about these Colorado Buffaloes because they are rolling in the recruits right now, everybody. The Buffs got 5-star Cody Williams, who you can see on the left right here. And he's the highest rated recruit since Chauncey Billups. And then they go and sign 6'10" center Son Diop. We talked about it earlier. 24/7 Sports has them listed the top 15 class in the country for next year.
Wow.
I also need to give credit where credit is due because the Buffs went into Tennessee and did something that the Broncos could not do, and that was get a win as they top number 11 Tennessee on Sunday. So I got to give credit where credit is due. What a great win, you guys.
Wow, we have a potential Final Four team up there in Boulder. And, you know, the window is small when you have guys like that because they're just, they just go into the pros for the most part. But, wow, great job in recruiting and incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Tad Boyle, listen, he may not have gotten his team as far as a Buffs fans had wanted, in his tenure thus far, which is going on what? Year 10, year 11, year 12. He's been in Boulder forever. But he may, as D-Mac said, he may finally have a team that can make a really, really deep run. And if those guys are both one and done, you got one season to get it right in the tournament. You can't afford to have one bad day come March Madness. A lot of pressure, but also a lot of fun for Buffs fans.
But it's also exciting because great recruits follow other great recruits.
Right.
Yeah. So while that window may be small, the future recruiting window for the Buffs may have been blown open wide because they've done this. So great job. Very exciting.
Yeah, a fun time. As a former CSU Ram or as a CSU alum, it kills me a little bit to see the Buffs doing well. But honestly, when there's exciting college basketball in Colorado in a school, you have to hop on. It's March Madness is one of my favorite times of the year. I think a lot of people agree. So shout out to the Buffs. We look forward to hopefully seeing a lot more of success as they move forward. But we will go to – do you have something to say, D-Mac?
Yeah, I want to talk about the soccer really quick.
Hit me.
I feel conflicted. And here's why. I just saw the Beckham, Peyton Manning, Lay's potato chips, whatever that commercial is, which was fantastic. Is it football? Is it soccer? Really, really good. Here's where I'm conflicted. I'm seeing these housing units that are set up like Fire Festival right now. And it's that it was a complete corrupt process to land the World Cup in Qatar, however you say it.
Qatar.
So how do you guys and how should I separate what's amazing for the athletes in the moment from the corruption that brought it to its location?
Yeah, it's a great question, especially because their track record on human rights is despicable. We don't know how many people died building these stadiums, but it was certainly a lot. There was really shady labor practices going on to get this all ready to go. So yeah, it's a conflicting thing of, am I going to not watch? No, I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to be into it. I'm still going to be rooting for the U.S. But you do have to be conscious of the reason that we get to do this is because it was a shady way they got this bid. They should have never gotten this bid.
Never.
And then they did shady things to get it ready to go. So, yeah, I think morally, like, I'm not going to boycott it, but I also think it's important for fans to realize, like, yeah, this kind of sucks how this all came together.
No, it's a really, really good point, DMAC. And obviously, like, we pass along our condolences to everybody out there. It's a really tough situation, but I think you still have to stand behind, and it does bring some money to them. Like, as big of an event as it is, it still will bring some money. So you hope in the long run that money will go to the people who actually need it and not to some others. So we can leave it at that, because yeah, it's a really tough situation. But like Will said, I'll still be watching the U.S. It's an incredible opportunity for them. It's been a few years, so I'm excited to hopefully see them go pretty far.
I just wish these international competitions, World Cup, Olympics, weren't so clouded in corruption.
Yeah,
that's all. Because I praise the athletes for the incredible work they've done to get to this actual moment. And I've had that same conflict, by the way, with college sports for a long time too. That's why I consider myself more of a pro sports guy, because you put everything out on the table. Everything's there. You know, I think it's a more even playing field. Higher stakes, and you have to sort of come to terms with the fact that money does determine everything, which isn't always great for the athlete. And you see this with Aaron Patrick, representing, by the way, a lot of other athletes who are having problems with the playing surfaces in the NFL. But I'll leave it there. That's a little too serious, and I just wanted to bring it up.
Well, and real quick, shout out Ethan Horvath, who we showed the billboard, Arapahoe High School, just down the road. That's where my sister went to school. And Jake Shapiro says that billboard's at Broadway and Jewel, South Broadway and Jewel. It's about 5 minutes from where I am right now in Inglewood. I might have to go check it out and take a picture.
Hey, that's Centennial League action right there. Anything in the Centennial League. I'll take Horvath from Arapahoe, Jacob Martin from Cherokee Trail. Let's go Smoky Hill, Mike McDaniel coaching the Dolphins. Yes. Centennial League, baby.
Lots of good athletes, lots of good sports individuals coming out of Denver. We're lucky. Okay, well, let's move on to a not so great sports team right now. That is the Denver Broncos. And they are making moves and dealing with some injuries yet again. Billy Turner is going to IR with a knee injury. He'll be out at least 4 weeks. The Broncos have Cam Fleming and Tom Compton, who are close to returning. Quinn Bailey with one more PS elevation credit as well. That is practice squad elevation credit. And then the Broncos waived wide receiver Tyree Cleveland to bring on Jonathan Harris from the practice squad to 53. Interesting. When I first saw this, I was like, can they afford to get rid of another wide receiver? It was kind of interesting. And to you both shaking your head like, yeah, what the heck? But I guess you got to do what you got to do, right, Will?
Well, and here's the thing is, you know, when we went into the season, it was supposed to be Sutton, Judy, Patrick, and Hamler, right? Yep. Patrick's done for the year. Hamler could be done for the year. We don't know what's going on there. He's another hamstring, hip, ACL. Luckily, Judy dodged a bullet, but he was this close to tearing the Achilles. So that was my gut reaction too, Rachel. It's like, do they have enough bodies at wide receiver? What's going on? Why are you getting rid of Tyree Cleveland? And then it made me think he must have done something really messed up in that Tennessee game, because they have held no one accountable this year. No one. Not Melvin Gordon, not anyone on the coaching staff, no one. And he's the first guy. You're telling me Tyree Cleveland's the fall guy? There's more to this story. That one was odd to me, D-Mac.
Well, I'm definitely going to, if it doesn't get asked, I will certainly ask Hackett in about an hour or so, what is it? Why was it? And if he gives a kind of a benign answer, I will absolutely follow up. Is this an example of accountability? I'll throw it out there, because what other reason could there be? He's a core special teams guy, and like they're thin at wide receiver. So what was it about him, and why him and not Melvin Gordon? Why him and not Butch Barry, the offensive line coach? You know, why him compared to other things that have not gone all that well? It'll be interesting to find out that answer.
I hope you get a good answer. Hackett has been known for giving just very basic answers, so I hope we get some honesty there. I mean, true. Okay, I've talked about this at O-line, right? Like, this O-line is just completely dying out. But the wide receiver group, like you named all those names, Will, is also doing that. So are they looking at other ones? Is Chase Edmond coming in, even though he's a running back, to be a wide receiver because we know he can play in that area? Like, where do you fill this at? Because it needs to come in from somewhere. You never know what could happen with any of these wide receivers. Like, you can't have Kendall Hinton be your number 2 guy. You know what I mean?
Well, they do have Brandon Johnson back on the practice squad, and he was a little bit of a training camp darling. And remember, his father is Charles Johnson, former Colorado Rockies catcher. There's good athlete blood running through Brandon Johnson. So I would look for him to get promoted. And then Jalen Virgil caught a 66-yard touchdown in his first game action. So he's going to be part of things. Montreal Washington's going to be part of things. It's not the names that are as sexy, but it is more guys when you start rattling off. Okay, they do have number 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers, even without Tyree Cleveland. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But, guys, remember, they kept Tyree Cleveland over Seth Williams. And Seth Williams, I was pounding the table for him. I know James Merrillat was pounding the table for him, and it didn't work. So, yet another failure by this coaching staff, picking the wrong guy, picking Cleveland over Williams, and that did not work out.
Yeah, and Seth Williams, I think, went to another practice squad. Like, he chose
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Okay, so is he still on that practice squad, or was he elevated? Do you know?
No, he still is, so you could snatch him back.
Well, so you could go get him. I mean, if you wanted to. I think the Jerry Jeudy injury probably isn't as serious as was once thought, which is good news. And
do you think we'll see KJ Hamler this week?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's okay. Maybe they expect him to come back. They are adding a name from nowhere. Tom Compton has been activated too, so that might be a plan at offensive line. So perhaps that's why. Perhaps Tyree maybe he did something wrong. Maybe he's more expendable because other guys are coming up. Who knows? It does seem like an odd move, but I'm going to assume that there were other reasons and probably good news with Jeudy and Hamler. We'll find out later today about that too.
We'll keep everybody up to date at denverfan.com. It's always okay. Andrew Mason does wonderful research, and he found that there's actually something interesting with the Broncos, is that they have had the win probabilities in their favor against Seattle, the Raiders, the Colts, Los Angeles, the Jets, and Tennessee, and they still lost them all. This was all in the second quarter. What is going on with this team in the second half, and why are they not able to keep any of the leads that they have, or just the win probabilities in general? Like, what have you guys seen that has happened between the first half and the second half, and why aren't those adjustments being made to end the game with a win? And D-Mac, will roll with you first.
Well, I think I'll take my opinion out of it, and I'll just go to like Mark Schlereth and these other football player guys, and they say there's a lack of identity on the team. That one play seems to be for Hackett, another play seems to be for Russ, and there are no adjustments happening. So the win probabilities are probably just that, that sort of stuff works initially, and the other team adjusts around it.
Yeah,
I guess that's it. But you can't tell me who they are offensively. It's impossible. Literally nobody knows. Well,
and also, first of all, in more of a joking manner, there's a real path to 9-0, guys. I mean, they were favored second quarter and beyond in all 6 of their losses. Like, that does show you, in a more serious note, how good the defense is, right? Because the fact that they were favored in all these games, we've all seen the stat by now that if they scored 18 or more points, they'd be 8-1. Like that sort of ridiculous thing. Like, it shows how good the defense has been. I agree with D-Mac. No offensive identity. And the other thing I'll say about those win percentages, it shows you that the defense is playing so hard and so well and maybe hitting a little bit of a wall, right? Like, I think back to the Indy game where they played so well the whole Thursday night game, and then Russ throws 2 inexcusable picks, and they can't get the stops at the end of regulation or in overtime, even though they only gave up a field goal to get the win. Again, no one's blaming the defense, but when you're on the field for 80, 90 plays because your offense is so worthless, you're going to start to run out a little bit of steam. And I do think that's another reason that we should explore and acknowledge.
Listen, it's hard to build dynasties or long-term success with a great defense. Usually great defenses win championships every now and then, but you can do it. It happened in 2015 with the Broncos, the 2000 Ravens, the 86 Bears. It has happened. But none of those teams sustained any kind of long-term success. Okay. What do you need in 2015 with, a great defense, all-timer defense? You just had a middling offense. So you actually can win this way with a middling offense. We don't even have that. We have the worst offense. And if you have the worst offense, you somehow have to strive for the middle. Yeah. So it's not, in 2015, they won 11 games by 7 or less points. They'll probably lose 11 games by 7 or less points this year. Mm-hmm. And so they're not necessarily that far away. But games in the NFL are closer than ever. Scoring is lower than ever. The margin for error is as small as it's ever been in the NFL. You have very close, boring games going on in the NFL. So in terms of just improving your record, you just need to be a tad less boring. And I do have a radical suggestion. I do.
Okay.
Are you ready? Are you ready for a radical suggestion?
I want to hear it.
Who's the best player on the Denver Broncos right now?
Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, I'd go Surtain.
I agree. A ranking just came out. He's the number 1 cornerback.
Yep.
Okay, guys, let's use Patrick Surtain on offense and punt return. Let's put Patrick Surtain in a dynamic position where his incredible talent can have a greater impact on actually winning the game. We're taking our best player right now and burying him. We're not utilizing everything we have with this guy if he truly is that good. Let's get him out on punt return. Let's get him out catching a ball every now and then or putting the ball in his hand. That is my radical suggestion to improve a struggling offense.
Wait, you want to play Pat Surtain on offense?
I want to use him as an offensive weapon.
Wow.
Punt return and on offense for a handful of plays.
That's not radical. That's like to the moon. That's how Deion Sanders was used. That's how Champ Bailey was used when he first was around. I don't think we've seen it in 20 years though.
Yeah.
So I'm not criticizing it, D-Mac. Believe me, my reaction isn't, hey, D-Mac's crazy. My reaction is, this would be so unorthodox and so wild. Is this coaching staff capable of thinking up anything that creative? Because they can't even get a first down.
I asked Fangio about it last year, actually, and got, sort of, are you kidding me? And, he doesn't have his job anymore. So I'll throw it out there again. But what other choices do we really have right now? Except just to lose and have the worst offense. I mean, we can continue down that road, or we can start to get a little bit creative.
Okay, but how do you?
By the way, why is it so nuts to have Patrick Surtain return a few punts? Why is that such a radical thought? There have been high-level players returning punts forever in the NFL.
Because if he gets hurt, then you lose a number 1 lockdown.
No, who will? It's freaking football. If we're worried about guys getting hurt, then why play anybody ever? You can't
play against Devontae Adams. You play against Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. You play against Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster all twice a year. You need that guy. You need him healthy on a week-in, week-out basis. You just do.
Or those offenses.
Punt return, that would be
all right, well, listen. Get ready for Patrick Surtain to be unbelievably healthy and lose every single game. Because teams are just going to avoid him. And he's not going to take away half the field. He's going to take away a very small patch of the field. Unless they play zone defense, which every team does. And then he takes away like a square of the field. It's just not that impactful. And if the Broncos played the Dolphins, do you think they wouldn't throw to Waddle or Tyreek Hill just because Patrick Surtain is there? Of course they would. And like we saw against DK Metcalf, you won't completely shut down the best guys. You may minimize them, but they're still going to catch some passes.
I'm reading the comments now. Someone said I'd pay to see PS2 on the offense. My radical PS2 thing is to trade him in 2024. Ugh. Ooh. Plus,
by the way, Jalen Ramsey was traded, and so was Gilmore. So the 2 best corners in the league are with their second team. That whoever made that comment is absolutely right. You probably won't even get a second contract out of Patrick Surtain.
Where does Pat Surtain rank among even the fastest guys on the Broncos team, though? Because if you're going to have him out there returning punts, I mean, that just gives me anxiety. Like thinking about the fact that he's just going to get like smoked.
Well, listen, I'm looking for radical change because there's a radical problem. If there wasn't a problem, then fine. By the way, they're never going to do this. It's another great idea of mine that's just going to go off into the ether. But it's a great idea that they'll never use because the Denver Broncos have shown a ridiculous amount of lack of creativity. And one of the things that I see all the time when it comes to the Broncos, I got a term for it now. I love my terms. I call it assumed incompetence. Why do something because the Broncos will just screw it up? Why draft a quarterback? They'll just screw it up. The culture of this team with a lot of the fan base is assumed incompetence. And I find that amazing. I mean, talk about dystopian and fatalistic. If you just have assumed incompetence, why would you ever root for this team at all? I'm not even that cynical.
Yeah, D-Mac, I'm not going to lie. I'm just really still stuck on
Surtain?
On how in your brain this works and offensively how this works.
Well, it's pretty simple, Rachel. The defense shut down the Titans. I mean, how many times they punt? 8? Okay.
I know, but you can't have Pat Surtain go out there for every single snap. Then
I would not. Well, not on punt return. But if the ball is being punted, say, between the 10 to 25-yard line, that's where the ball's coming off the foot. That punt's probably going to be a line drive, and you're going to have a little bit of a runway for a return. I just saw a highlight of Deion Sanders taking a ball at about the 35 and starting his high step at the 50 as he walked into the end zone. So I would use Surtain in those type of situations where there's a greater likelihood of return. I wouldn't put him in dangerous situations where it doesn't matter. So that's my thought. Montreal Washington, they don't even trust him. Did you see how scared he was on the first punt? He put his feet on the 20 and did not try to catch a ball that landed at the 12. He's a 5th-round draft pick out of Samford. Patrick Surtain is one of the top players in the league out of Alabama who will be here forever. And when was the last time you actually saw a returner get hurt on a punt return? When did it happen? Can you name one this entire year?
Not off the top of my head. Of
course not, because it really doesn't happen all that much. Now, Montreal Washington took a shot. I mean, he was blasted out of a cannon on like his 3rd return of the day against Tennessee. Yeah. But and by the way, you wouldn't have to do it if you're winning football games. We're talking about some desperate measures. And how about just the end around, a jet sweep to Patrick Surtain? Who would you rather have the ball in the hands of, Surtain or Montreal Washington? Surtain or Jalen Virgil? I mean, he's not a China doll out there. He's an exciting, dynamic player. He's 6'2" and yoked. I mean, he is not a small guy. Let's get him out there. If he really wants to be impactful, let's make him impactful.
Wait, real quick.
Talking me into this, and when Stink's the head coach and D-Mac's the special teams coordinator, guess who can make this happen? The special teams coordinator. You can march into Stink's office and tell him we're using Surtain on punt returns, and oh, by the way, I think you should use him on offense too.
Dude, if Stink becomes the head coach, I would be the freaking best special teams coordinator of all time. And the great news, I would have a lot of time off. I mean, I would be like Will, getting those Swiftie tickets. That's how much effort I would have to put in to being the best special teams coach of all time.
Your press conferences would be must-see. You'd be the most exciting special teams coach since Brock Olivo.
Well, here's
I look forward to your 22 Janos moment.
I would actually be the most boring special teams strategy of all time because I'd be kicking the ball out of bounds. I'd be fair catching basically everything or just letting the ball drop. No, I mean.
What if you had Pat Surtain, though?
What's that?
You're not going to let Pat Surtain return it?
If you're not going to let him return it, why do you need him out there?
Hey, we're down by 10. Surtain, you're returning punts.
I'm not going to lie. I never expected.
It's not that nuts. It used to happen in the NFL all the time. Starting corners used to take punts back all the time. It's not that crazy.
I really want Stink to get this job and hire D-Mac. My fingers are now crossed.
Me too. Here's what's fun.
Get on here.
I wouldn't have to quit my radio job to be the special teams coach. I would just have to be there for maybe 2 or 3 hours in the morning. I could even do coffee break and still be the special teams coach.
Love it.
Listen, though, you got to get in the gym with those guys like Dwayne Stukes does and work out with them and do all that.
They don't even have to know my name. Listen, here's what's crazy. And I told you I like pro sports. You don't have to be friends with the guys you're coaching as a coach. You don't. I would barely talk to the players. I would just tell them what to do and just make sure they do it. And if they don't do it, I'd dump them. I wouldn't sit up there like Dwayne Stukes and say, what am I supposed to do? I can't do anything. Guy's not on the field. What am I supposed to do? Don't play him, coach. Cut him. Bench him. I mean, this is not complicated. It's pro sports. You don't have to talk to his mom and dad after the game. They're not waiting for you in the parking lot.
Oh, geez. Parents wait around. We don't even need to get into that. Real quick, I did see a comment that's more of a realistic. How about Jalen Virgil at return? Well,
why would you do that? What's the difference between Jalen Virgil and Montreal? Jalen Virgil's a better receiver than Montreal Washington. So hold on. I love that text. So it makes sense to put a better player to return punts, but not the best player. Got it. Check.
But why?
But Rachel, we talked about this on Halftime Chill on Sunday during the Broncos-Titans game. Yeah. Jalen Virgil in one half of football made more plays than Montreal Washington has made all year. So why was Virgil inactive for all these games while Washington got a uniform and, oh, by the way, cost them a game when he and PJ Locke ran into each other in Los Angeles against the Chargers on Monday Night Football? Another indictment on the coaching staff that they couldn't see that, yes, Virgil's a better player all around than Washington, and I'd be open to the idea of Virgil returning punts, as the commentator points out.
No, I'm also with that. And I still wonder, because we know that Russ and Peyton had a conversation about Montreal Washington before the draft, and that was that he really liked him. So you wonder how much that Russ effect is still playing into who is active on the roster. It's just a question, D-Mac.
Wait, refresh my memory on this. How did Russ even know who Montreal Washington was?
Yeah, he does for the same reasons we do, because he watched some highlights of Samford. Guys, have you ever watched Samford football? Do you know who they were playing against? So Montreal Washington was a Division I SEC caliber player. He was. He had some things go sideways in his life, and that's how he ended up at Samford. He was an SEC recruit. He ended up at Samford. Crap happens to young kids all the time. I don't judge anybody on it. But when you looked at his tape, it was stunning, because he's playing against a bunch of kids that the best they could do was play against Samford. They were never going to be. They're special teams players playing against Samford. That's who they are. So, I mean, it's the level, but the tape is mind-blowing if you watch it. I've seen it. It's easy to find.
Russ found a YouTube video and told the GM what to do.
Yeah. Yes.
That's crazy if you think about that.
Of course.
But that just shows how much of a voice he has, or still does have, I guess. I'm not
sure.
Why
things happen on special teams, it's the stupidest stuff of all time. And it has been for years. And has gotten the Broncos in trouble for years and years and years. Yet I'm crazy? I'm the radical one? Really? I'm the most conservative guy. I'm the safest guy. I want to use my best players. I want to just catch the ball. I don't care about gaining 12
yards. So then if we're just catching the ball, why the heck will we put Pat Surtain out there?
Because he's going to do the right thing the most often. Because his livelihood is not dependent on returning that punt. He'll be smarter. He's a smarter football player. He's a better athlete and a smarter player. That's why. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's smarter. He's not desperate. Bop, 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 bop.
All right. Well, Mark Schlereth is here, so I'm actually going to, Will, you're more than welcome to leave unless you would like to continue this conversation, because I'm curious to hear what Mark Schlereth has to say about.
He'll absolutely hate it.
Probably. Mr. Mark Schlereth, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Okay, so DMAC has this idea that we want to pass by you before we get to Inside the Game. Sounds good?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
All right, DMAC, hit it.
Use Patrick Surtain in offensive modes. Get him the ball more. He's your best player. Get him out there, including returning punts.
Has he ever returned punts? I don't know. I don't know enough about Pat Surtain.
Yeah, he'll figure it out. He's a great athlete, one way or the other.
If he had great hands, he probably would have been a receiver instead of a DB.
But I'd make him a receiver.
Right.
I'd get him out there. He probably wouldn't be the best receiver. He's the number one corner. I'd use him. I'd do jet sweeps. I'd do things to set him up. How about the DT play where you just throw the ball out to him and he makes things happen? Yeah. I mean, listen, you got to do something to juice up this offense, and you got to get better guys out there on special teams. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Well, I would probably disagree with putting him on offense. I don't know if he's returned or not. But I mean, one player isn't going to make a difference on this offense. This offense needs to be called differently. This offense needs to be played in such a manner that that you protect your offensive line. I mean, when you're playing with a third string right tackle, a second string left tackle, essentially a rookie guard, a third team center, and you throw it 42 times and you wonder why you get hit 18 times and you give up 6 sacks. Like, put a guy in a position to fail. Don't be surprised when he fails because you're the dumbass that put him in that position. So
it's obviously a deeper conversation. You're completely right. Listen, When you're the head coach, just bring me in for the special teams coach interview and I can hash out all the details. Okay. And yeah, you're right. Listen, that's not the answer. That's just a small piece of the puzzle. All I'm saying is the guy's really good. Let's use him, because having the best cornerback in the world apparently doesn't matter if you can't move the football at all.
Yeah, you know what? We coined them on our show, the all for naught defense. And man, it is sad. That statistic that Mike read me on Monday morning was, if we scored 18 points in regulation, we'd be 8-1. 18 freaking points. That's it? 18 points? I mean, it's pathetic what's going on right now offensively, and things have to change. And that, we can sit there and point the finger at Russell Wilson, and there's plenty of blame to be pointed at Russell Wilson. You got to take what the defense gives you. Like, I understand that it's 3rd down and 9, but when they're running deep with everybody, you got to dump it off to your under and let that guy try to break a tackle. That's what those guys get paid for. And eventually, if you do that enough and you convert a couple 3rd downs, you know what they stop doing? They stop running deep with everybody. They stop taking that stuff away. So that's on you as a quarterback. But the bottom line is, it's an old coach. It's an old coaching cliche. You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And if hey man, I'm at this point with Nathaniel Hackett, and he's a friend of mine. Dude, if you're gonna get fired, you're gonna get fired. I mean, that's gonna if this does not turn around dramatically starting Sunday, you're not gonna be a head coach. And you know what? You'll never get another head coaching job. Not after this debacle. You may never call plays again. So if I'm going down, if I'm going to go down, I'm going down on my terms. We're going to run what I want to run, and this is not about appeasing my quarterback or anything else. This is about going down the way I'm going to go down, and so be it. If I'm going to go down anyway, it's like Gary Kubiak. Remember Gary Kubiak last game of the season when John Elway said you're going to play Paxton Lynch, and Gary Kubiak gave him the big middle finger from the field, like we're up 20-0. That dude is never getting in for me because I'm the coach. You're the GM. That's not how it works. I decide who plays. And so, like, at some point, Nathaniel Hackett's got to, put on his big boy pants and call the game the way he wants to call it, and results be damned. But I wouldn't continue to essentially just get, 9 points a game and get ridiculed out of Denver.
No, you're not wrong, Mark. You're not wrong. All right, Mark, you ready to go inside the game? Let's do this.
Absolutely.
All right.
Mark Schlereth for head coach train. See you guys later.
Mark Schlereth for head coach. We're all in for it. All right. It is time to go inside the game with Mark Schlereth, presented by Bet Rivers Sportsbook. Davante Adams, Mark. It's always a question mark with him. He's obviously a fabulous wide receiver, but it seems like sometimes this season he's really on, or he's having a little bit of a slower game. Over or under 100 or 100.5 receiving yards for Davante Adams.
I'm going to go over. And I think that ultimately the last time the Broncos played the Raiders had their way with them running the football. And I think what I've seen them do is really eliminate that aspect of the game. And so I don't know if there'll be a matchup with Pat Surtain on Devontae Adams. I don't know if he'll follow him around or not. But Devontae right now, with the injury to Waller, with the injury to their little slot receiver, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but with the injuries they have right now, he's the guy. He is the one they're go-to, and he's the guy, even if it's double team, that Derek Carr trusts. So I think it's Renfro is who I was thinking about, but that's the guy he trusts. I think he'll get plenty of opportunities. I think he'll have 100 yards plus. Yeah, so I'm going to go over on that.
Okay. Russell Wilson is averaging 1 passing touchdown per game. Over under 1.5 touchdown passes for Russ.
I am going to go under.
Oof.
I just this offense is pathetic, and if they don't start, understanding and having some empathy for how hard playing offensive line is with a ragtag group and a bunch of third teamers and second teamers, and you're in deep trouble. So I assume they're going to run the heck out of the football. Last week it was like, we got to throw the ball more. No, you don't. Right? Nobody gets into rhythm throwing the football. It just doesn't exist that way. So I'm assuming that your job is on the line. This may be the last game you ever coach if you don't start scoring some points. So I'm assuming they're going to do some things a little bit differently in regards to running the football. At least I hope that. So I'll go under on that.
Well, it might be a nice change of pace for Broncos country. Now over under half of a quarter before the boos come out.
Half of a quarter. So I'm going to go under.
Okay. So you think they're coming out in the first?
I think as soon as you go 3 and out on your first drive. You go 3 and out on your first drive, the boos are coming out. Okay. And you don't get a first down on your first drive, there are going to be issues.
First 3 and out, Tommy is saying in the comments. You're calling this game this weekend as you're preparing. I mean, these are two struggling football teams, but who do you have coming out on top?
Until the Broncos can show me that they can put any offense together. I mean, they scored 10 points last week to a defensive football team that had 5 starters out. We're complaining about our injury issues. 5 starters out. And, oh, by the way, arguably probably a top 3 defensive tackle in Jeffrey Simmons did not play last week. Mm-hmm. They lucked out. They lucked out with the injuries and the defense that they faced, because the Tennessee Titans are a big physical group, and Simmons, they don't have anybody in their front 3 that can block Simmons. Nobody. Between guard, center, guard. And so they got lucky last week with 5 defensive starters out and managed to score 10 points. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm giving them. I'm done hoping. Until they show me that they can that resembles an offense, that resembles consistency. I don't have a lot of faith.
No, I'm with you, and I think a lot of Broncos country is too, which is why we're saying on the first 3 and out there will be boos. With you knowing the offensive line so well and the struggles that we had, it amazed me that Luke Wattenberg did not have a single, practice with Russell Wilson, it felt like, because when he went out there, it was a disaster. Who is that to blame for the fact that, injuries are continuing to happen for this team? So why not give this guy, 20 minutes during practice throughout the week to sit down with your quarterback?
Yeah. I think part of that is just getting through practice. There's less practice time today than there's ever been. But yeah, with the history of Glasgow, you've got to give him at least some snaps, some practice time. You've got to have a little bit of a rotation there. So, again, that's on this rookie coaching staff. I just, it goes to show you when everybody is a first time head coach, first time offensive coordinator, the first time you ever, as an offensive line coach, had your own room. You've always been an assistant. There are so many first time guys within this staff that those are the things that a veteran coach would say, hey, you know what, we need to think about this. Like we really need to, what if, the what if scenarios. And obviously those things haven't been drilled and haven't been talked about. I spent, I think, 3 different weekends with the Minnesota Vikings, being at their facility, calling their games. There's a reason that they're 8-0 in one-score games, is because their attention to detail, to situational football, and making plays in critical moments. They spend an inordinate amount of time on just that. And you know what? In all those critical moments, whether it's Buffalo last week or whether it's whoever else they've beaten in the last minutes of the game, it's because they have worked on that. They've prepared for that, and they've thought about that stuff before it happens. So the guys aren't surprised when it happens. They're ready for it. And obviously we're not.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, one last thing before we let you go. You are the King Soopers Pick'em winner of the week. What's your favorite thing to buy at King Soopers?
Food. And they carry my stinking good green chili, right? I mean, freezer section, both the queso and the green chili. Make sure you head there and get some, because they've been a partner of mine now for 15 years. They have, like, when I presented that to them, they're saying, absolutely, we want to partner with you. They've been great to us. We've shopped there for, since we came to Colorado in 1995. Like they say, King Soopers is Colorado.
100%. Mark, as always, appreciate you hanging out with us. And we will see you next week. And good luck to this weekend as you call the game.
Thank you, Rachel. Take care.
All right. Mark Schlereth, everybody, presented by Bet River Sportsbook. We're going to bring DMAC back in. And I think Jake has Patrick Surtain returning a punt.
Man, who would want that? Yeah, there you go.
Back in his high school days, still rocking the number 2 jersey, returning a punt for a touchdown. So maybe it's not too crazy, DMAC, although it feels a little out there. I won't lie.
They'll never do it. It's just another great idea of mine that'll go by the wayside. But that's okay. I'm crazy. I wanted Josh Allen, not Bradley Chubb. I wanted Justin Fields, not Patrick Surtain. I want Patrick Surtain to actually play and have the ball in his hands. I'm a nut. I'm the stupid one. God.
You're the unique one, DMAC, and we appreciate you and your time every single day. You make this show so fun. You make it so interesting, so I can never thank you enough. But that is going to do it for Coffee Break here today. Huge shout out to Mark and Will for joining us today, and we'll be back tomorrow for a Thursday edition of Coffee Break, 10:30 a.m. Peace out, everybody. Bye.